Hey, welcome everybody to Athearn Extra 2.2. So glad to have you here with us tonight. You are seeing me live in my office, Athearn office, and because I've got two really important guests to share with you tonight. We're going to be talking some great stuff tonight, mainly what the guys have been working on. And we'll get into that in a little bit. For right now, though, I want to see who's joining us here in the live stream. I see Delta 9, Bradley, Anthony, Christopher, DG Model Works is in the house. Joel, John, Cody, Glenn, Brian, Keegan, Kevin, John, just to name a few. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. If you are joining us live, like I said, thank you. You're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to be talking all about new stuff that Athearn's working on. If you are joining us from the YouTube, thank you for finding us. Thank you for looking us up. If you like the content, do us a favor. Go over there and hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell button so that you know every time a new video like this gets onto your subscription feed. So let's do one more round of shout outs and see who is joining us here tonight. I see Eric, Patrick, Reading Area Rail Fan, MTG Squad, Jason, Daniel, Ted, Mr. Rick Simpson, KCG Rail Gilbert, and a whole lot more. So once again, thank you. We've got about 102 guys joining us here tonight to talk about what we're working on. You know, many times I say on Train Tuesday, the guys in development are so busy because they're coming up with new items for you to enjoy on your layouts. And so tonight I'm especially excited to have one of our product developers here with us tonight. Now, originally we were going to have John Stackpole on the feed. Unfortunately, John has come down with something. It's that time of year, and unfortunately, he is out for tonight. But I do have someone else that I'd like to introduce you to. Really, the guy needs no introduction. He has been here for many years, and that is Mr. Yannick Bringle. How you doing tonight, Yannick?
Hey, how's it going, Jim? Hey, everyone.
So, Yannick, nice to have you on board. It's been a bit, hasn't it?
I know I used to be around here a lot more often, and I've kept my head down these past couple of years, it seems, but it's good to be back, and it's unfortunate that John couldn't be here, but hopefully, I can fill in for him in some capacity.
Well, Yannick, we could not do what we do without you. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and sharing it with us. And you know what, guys out there, don't think that Yannick is going away for too long. We're going to be doing more episodes throughout the year with both John and Yannick. So I'm sure you guys will be looking forward to that. Now, Yannick, real briefly, for anybody that is not familiar with you, can you give us a quick rundown about how long you've been with Athearn, what you do, and then a little bit about your modeling as well?
Yeah, so I hired on in September of 14 as a product developer, working in the Long Beach office. And, over the years, I worked my way up. I'm a product development supervisor now. I have a team of 2 other employees under me. And we spit out, all these items you see every month. All the new paint schemes that you see using the tooling that we have. We all work from home now, so it's kind of it's a different vibe than it used to be, but we're getting along, keep pushing the stuff out, keep doing what people want us to do. As far as my modeling experience, I started out probably about when most people started. I was about 5. I had a lifelike Thundering Rails set with the War Bonnet Santa Fe GP38-2, which, that's at the time it was the best thing ever, but I don't know about now, but got me started on a 4x8 piece of plywood. Stopped it for a bit in college because, wasn't cool, had other things on my mind for the time, but then I got back into it. I saw some sound locomotives on YouTube. I was like, man, I got to get me one of those. That's cool. Got myself back into it with the sound locomotives, and here I am. So the rest is history.
And for those of you that don't know, at one time before my tenure here at Athearn, it was Yannick that used to do Train Tuesday. And then when I came on board, he kind of helped segue me into Train Tuesday. So really, Yannick has a lot to do with Train Tuesday. So if you enjoy Train Tuesday, go ahead in the comments, give Yannick a great shout out and a thank you for starting that. Someone else I want to introduce to you tonight, again, a man that needs no introductions. This gentleman has been on many extra live feeds with us in the past. He is the editor of the HO Collector, editor of Model Railroad News, and a lover of fine automobiles. No other but Tony Cook. Tony, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you?
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me this evening. Yes, lover of fine automotives. Yes. And tell us about your recent vintage pickup in 1-to-1 scale models.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because at Springfield, because of your review, I had picked up a certain HO scale vehicle, but my 1-to-1 scale, yes, is a 1965 Ford Falcon.
Wow.
So that is my daily driver. As most people probably know, I am a car guy. Years ago, I bought a Mustang. I felt like a sellout. So I went ahead and bought a Ford Falcon so that people know that, yes, I do actually maintain my vehicles. I do know how to rebuild engines. So it's a fun hobby within a hobby. But
that's very cool. I've seen pictures of it when you were bringing it home. And yeah, that is awesome. That's very
thanks,
cool.
Tony. So, Tony, for those who are joining us and may not know who you are, and that might be one or two people, give us a quick rundown about who you are, what you do, and then maybe a little bit of a background on your modeling expertise.
I'm a Midwestern guy, always have been. Grew up in Illinois and Missouri. I split my time between Missouri and Texas these days. I do Model Railroad News, which is a monthly magazine from White River Productions on all things new in the hobby and reviews of those new items. As Jim also mentioned, I do HO Collector, which is a quarterly on vintage HO scale models, diesel era in the last year or so. In fact, the latest one, I can't wait to really look at this again. We're doing Jeep 40s. I've had more emails this week of, oh, I love those Rock Island Jeep 40s. And yeah, I had intended to do the Rock 40s after Rock died, which is up there on top. They went to UP and then they got relettered Mopac, and I mean, it was a really neat story, and just got carried away with, well, I want to go back and do the other Rock Islands. So that's the latest diesel era. I appear in Railroad Model Craftsman quarterly, and this came in today. This is Craftsman's 90th anniversary edition. This is a big edition. This is not quite out yet, or is just landing, but make sure you go check that out. It's got a thing on the V&O, that Alan McCullen just passed away recently, and that's one of the most famous freelance roads of all time. So I do that stuff. I help with Kevin U. Daly, who's one of the owners of White River Productions, with his slide collection, and that's where I interact with Yannick and some of these guys a lot when they're working on different projects, checking out prototype pictures. And been a train guy. I didn't start with lifelike like Yannick, though. I think mine was Athearn or Tyco. It was either an Athearn. I can't remember now if it was a Tyco set that my dad painted an Athearn F unit GM&O in like 1968. I was a little bitty kid, so yeah. But that was my HO start. I know it was a 4x6 like circle track.
Nice.
But yeah. So
great. We're gonna have a great time tonight. We're gonna be talking about things that John showed at the Amherst show. Now, since John is not here, there are some things that we're not going to cover. We're going to cover those in a future Athearn Extra. But we're going to be talking mainly about the Roundhouse F units. Now, before we get started, I'll let you know how this is going to shake out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be watching your comments, your questions. I'm going to let Yannick and Tony talk and share pictures of these projects that we've been working on. So if you've got a question for Yannick, or a question for Tony, or a question in general about what we're doing, put that in the comments. I will try to get you up there on the screen, and the guys can answer your questions. For guys that are asking for specific models, specific road names, specific things like that, I am going to direct you to our website, which is athearn.com. Select the Contact Us tab and hit the product suggestion email. All those emails do go to product development, to folks like Yannick. They all do read those. Please don't get offended if we don't read them, reply to those. Trust me, Product development gets a lot of those emails on a daily basis, but let's try to keep the comments and questions about the subject at hand. And Yannick, I'm going to let you start this out. And Tony, let me know when you're ready to share some pictures, and let's get started.
Awesome.
All right. Sounds good. You going to put some pictures up of these new units, Jim?
I do.
All right. There we go. Yeah, so we, as many of you probably already know, this is the updated Roundhouse F7a. Athearn has had an F7a in its line for, God, since the beginning, I think. And actually, I brought one here with me. Started out as the Globe Models shell, back in the early 50s. This was all you could get. It came in gold. Tony and I were wondering why it came in gold. If you know why it came in gold, let us know in the comments, because we have no idea. But, and for its time, it was a decent shell. It, had overall the dimensions weren't bad, especially given, the fact that it was made in the 50s. And it found its way on most people's layouts, and it's been in our line for just a long, long time. So came to a point where we started to notice that, hey, this thing is starting to wear out a little bit. The tooling is not what it used to be back when it was first made. It's getting a little long in the tooth. We wanted to redo it, but not just redo it with our eyes closed and say, yeah, just redo what's already there. We wanted to make it better. So what we've got here is the Athearn Roundhouse F7a 2.0, basically. It has an all-new body. The front windows have been revised, as well as the nose and the pilot shape. Then we redid the grills, the side far grills there. Or actually, I don't think those are the far grills. Those are the horizontal grills. I'm not sure if they were both far grills or not, but we redid them with bolt details and finer louver details. Redid the roof fan detail for more relief. Number boards. And Jim showing off the exhaust stacks. I don't think those are the final exhaust stacks. We got to shorten those down a little bit.
I was going to say, those look a little bit tall. Yeah, I was wondering. That's one of my questions. Yeah,
I'm going to short those down. We got all flush windows and headlight porthole casings now. One of the main things that we did is we chopped off the steam generator details at the back of the body. And, I used to think before I knew any better, like, oh, yeah, that must be the most common version of it, the one with the steam generator. I thought they were mostly like that. Well, as it turns out, they weren't mostly like that. By and large, and there were exceptions, but by and large, these A units didn't have steam generators. The Bs tended to have them when they were passenger or dual service, but the As tended to have mostly water tanks if they needed them, or nothing in a lot of cases. So we went with the more common version there, and that's going to be great for people who want to turn this into a super detailing project, where before you'd have to be on there with an X-Acto blade for at least an hour or two, shaving that thing off. Now you're good to go out of the box, or if you need to add it, just drill a couple holes. I mean, that's a lot easier. So what else do we got? So for those of you who are paying attention and know your F units, this would be an F7 phase 1 early. We also have the single headlight version and the double headlight version with the headlight on the door. So we have those two versions still. So the details on this are going to be matching an F7a phase 1 early, which is a really common configuration for these things.
I think the door on the nose, and I've got some vintage pictures that we'll look at in some of the older ads here in a bit, but I think the door detail that's new for this level F unit, that the other, I think, just has a line there. There's no like door handle to it. And I noticed the number boards, and Yannick, you can explain this better than me. And we'll look at it in the vintage ones. At first, this unit, the old globe shell, didn't have its number boards on the body. There were like dimples to put the two separate pieces on. And my understanding is this is a tough thing to get to come out of a mold because of the angles. So that's why, if you ever wondered why, yeah, as Yannick's showing those, see, they're black. They're separate pieces that sat on the nose. And it's neat too, Janice, you notice that those early ones, the headlight bezel is not open to have a headlight in it. So you'd have to drill it through if you wanted to have a lighted F unit, which is kind of funny too. But I think number boards, and if you look at everybody's vintage, you know, F units from, you know, like the Revels and Penline and Tyco and everybody, that's always an area that you have to cheat a little bit because you can't do those straight out angles and make it one piece. And I think these, which they do appear that they will be one piece on the shell, have a nice, I mean, that, you know, the compromise to make that work, it looks good. I think that's one of the better attempts I've seen at that.
Yeah, they're going to be one piece with the shell. And the other benefit of having them like that is that they're never going to be mounted anything but perfectly straight, since they're not separate pieces. I know that's an issue with other F7 units or F units where the number boards are separate. So we got a lot of people with some great comments. We got some people asking about, okay, yeah, that's a nice shell. What's going on underneath? And we've made some changes. We've made some additions. We've made some upgrades in that area as well. But before we get too far into there, I do want to say that we have also revised the mounting features, how the shell mounts to the chassis. Now, it used to be that there were a couple of tabs on the skirts that would hold it on, and it was kind of you had to spread it apart to pull it off. So what we've done here, we've added additional tabs to the chassis. And what that means is that if you wanted to do a modernized version with this and cut the skirts off, as a lot of railroads did, you can do that now, and you'll still be able to mount the shell to the chassis. And you've also got the couplers now, which are mounting the shell to the chassis, where before they were kind of just hanging out on the frame. So that's a big improvement there.
And that's always a tough, I think we've got a rear shot of it someplace. It seems like the back end, there's no porch on the back of an F unit. If you do it legitimately, the trucks go all the way back. So where do you hang a coupler pocket? And that's always been a challenge. And I was looking at that earlier today and kind of going over the pictures and the questions that I'd had come in. And yeah, it did look like that was a slightly different setup there, because that's always a tough one. A lot of times you put that coupler pocket on it, and you have the huge gap between F units because you had to cheat and put the pocket way out because there's no space under there. But it looks like they still will couple pretty close.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Tony. What we have here is on the back, there's two coupler box mounting points now. So you can choose if you want close coupling, if you have larger radius curves, if you want that closer coupling look, or you can use the farther apart position and they'll go around 18-inch radius still. So that gives you some flexibility there.
And again, one of the things when I first saw this and you guys announced it, and I know why John's not here tonight, because I immediately emailed and said, I'm not talking to you anymore. You have a completely done F unit and you didn't even tell me you guys were doing this? Wow. So I know why he's hiding tonight, but anyhow, that's fine. We'll settle that later. But the F unit is all new tooling. I know that's one of the other questions I had, is somebody saying, oh, are they doing something to the globe tooling? Will that globe F unit be going away? Do we know right now what is the status on the, like, will this be in the Athearn Roundhouse line? And do you have expectations of keeping that? You mentioned how the tooling was kind of getting worn on those, and maybe you could give us a little behind the scenes on that. My understanding is, like, back in the day when you cut like this Globe F unit in the mid 50s, it was someone actually cutting like a steel or whatever mold. And today, don't you make like a mold master and then aluminum somethings that's what the models are made off of? So like the actual master it's almost like records or something where they make a master and there's stampers that then make the stuff. So how does that work? Can you tell us a little of that to explain how that goes?
Well, I don't want to make a fool of myself. I'm not that most familiar actually with our tooling process. I can tell you that it's not done how it was in the 1950s. It's not actually cutting tooling in the sense of using tools or maybe water jets to actually cut the metal. It's an electronic process now, and I'm forgetting the term for it, but it's a whole lot more advanced than even I understand, quite frankly. But to get back
this is all new then, right? We're not, there's nothing being done to the classic Globe molds. Yeah.
Right. So to get back to that, the old Globe molds, they have been replaced. This is going to be what we have to present going forward. And frankly, it's better in almost every way. So we're really happy about that.
You mentioned the steam generator detail change, which is great. And again, that was one of the things I always thought as a kid when I first started realizing all some of the differences in these things was, and it seemed like Athearn and a lot of other companies did it too, the goal was to put everything you could on the plastic shell with the idea of you can file off the dynamic brakes, you can, sand off the steam generator details. But if they weren't there back in the day, well, some of those parts weren't available. So I always felt like you got the full featured with every kind, the double headlights, the whole shooting match. That way you can change it if you want, but if we don't put it there, you're not going to have the option. So you have mentioned we will have the dual headlight version. There's no steam generator. I did get asked, will there be a version done without dynamic brakes?
Yeah, so just like the old Globe version, it is, I want to put a little bit emphasis on this. This is still a Roundhouse level model. So we have upgraded it. We have made improvements to it. But at the end of the day, it's a Roundhouse model. It's intended to be a starting point in the hobby for those who want a durable model, who aren't maybe quite ready for a Genesis, or maybe they don't need a Genesis for whatever reason. So we didn't want to go too far with it. We could have gone all the way with this thing, frankly, but we already have the Highliners.
Yeah, I was going to say you guys have that. I mean, you guys. Again, it's interesting that in Athearn's line, the 54 Globe is the landmark F unit that virtually every F unit that came after it for decades followed up on. And then that Highliner tooling of the late 90s, again, set the new stage for F units that then everyone has tried to catch up on. So it's like, you have both ends of the market. So again, it's kind of one of those almost head scratchers of, so you're going to do a new F unit, but you make the best F unit. So how does that work?
It was a lot of strategy that went into this one, because we didn't want to get carried away with it. We definitely could have done more, but we said, we're going to make the most common version that was out there, and it's going to be a great starting point for anyone who wants to update it or change it, just like the old one was, but this one's even better.
And I do like that was one of the first things I had when I asked John for pictures. I had 2 or 3 guys already saying, has it got molded on handrails and grabs? I said, no, I don't think it does. I said, I think it is ready for, which again, you don't want that you want it without there's no little bumps for the lift rings on the roof. There's no grabs on the nose door. There's no handrails on the side or the grabs on the back. So as you say, it's an excellent model as a starting point, for projects, which that's awesome. You talked about the chassis and the upgrades. A lot of the Roundhouse stuff, I know there's we've been getting some DCC Jeeps. What's the electronics thought on this? Will we have sound? Will we have DCC?
Yeah, great question. So again, I wanted to emphasize this is in the Roundhouse line. So as a general rule, we're not going to be offering sound in the Roundhouse line. That's going to be reserved for Athearn and Genesis. But that being said, doesn't mean you couldn't add sound to this if you wanted to. But what we've done under the hood, so to speak, is we've updated the entire pickup system. So it used to be, and you probably remember this well, that the electrical path was through the frame itself for one rail, and then through the other rail, it was on the other side of the trucks coming up to a pair of metal tabs on the trucks.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the time, it was, you know, relatively straightforward, relatively easy to produce. What we've gone ahead and done is we have 4-wire pickup now. So that's 1 wire from each side of each truck. And that's really what everything else in our line has already. So we're bringing that up to the standard there. That's going to be a much improved pickup scheme. The other thing that we have now is it's going to be 21 pin DCC ready. So it comes with the circuit board, with the tabs, and a 21 pin connector. So you can plug and play whatever kind of motor control decoder or sound decoder that you want in there. We got LEDs as well. You know, it used to be that big old headlight bulb kind of just sitting in the cab. We've redesigned the headlight casing now, and I put a backing plate in there too, for lack of a better term, so there's no light leak. So it actually is going to have LED headlights that actually shine forward and not anywhere else.
That's cool. That's very nice. I did like the flush fitting windows, and the light inside the bezel there really looks nice. That's a good, you know, again, this is a really nice entry level, you know, F7. How about a B unit? That's one question, because Globe had a B unit from day one, and there always ends up with that. Is that something that's maybe considered?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tony. So as it turns out, we have not yet got to the point where we needed to change the B unit. So as of now, the B unit is still the same old B unit.
Oh.
It's possible that someday we'll need to revise that one as well. But as for now, it's going to remain pretty much as it has been, which is fine. I mean, I think that one has a steam generator, if I recall correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
Which means that, you know, it would be good for passenger consists in an ABBA set, for example. So yeah, do we got any photos of the chassis of this, Jim? Because we've got some people that want to see it, if it's possible. I did also want to mention.
Not get any pictures of that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only seen it, and that is all new. It looks like it's going to have a die-cast metal for the fuel, and like the water, the tanks underneath there will be a set thing that it snaps on, which as it was before. But it looks new to me. I think that's a new piece, isn't it?
What John was saying was the frame is very, very much like to the old Superpower. They used to call it the Superpower because it's got that added weight. But it has been updated so that you can easily put in, of course, it's got a 21 pin motherboard on there, so it's much easier to put a DCC decoder of your choice in there. So there's a little bit of changes, but it's kind of like, you know, Tony, you and I will appreciate this. It's kind of a retro mod. You know, it's a model that dates back to the 50s at least.
Yeah.
But as Yannick has been explaining here, it has been retooled and massaged. I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed was just how the windshields look so much better than they did.
Agreed.
With the original.
Yeah. And you know, it is funny. And why, Jim? How did I not? That's amazing that you jumped to that. Yes, this is like the retro Mustang or Camaro. I won't mention that poor little Thunderbird that Ford did for a couple of years. But yes, those throwback retro cars. I'm telling you, the Thunderbird needs to come back as a giant 2-door luxury car like it was in the 70s. That doing that little 2-seater was a mistake. Bring the big bird back and I'll buy one immediately. But anyhow, yeah, this is that same thing. It's like, yes, this is a Globe F unit done like these retro Mustangs and Camaros and whatever that one Dodge car is. You know, I'm a Ford Lincoln Mercury guy, so I do see those Mopars and I appreciate them. That whatever Challenger or Charger or something, it's okay looking too. But yeah, this is that in model form. Yeah, how cool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you see people putting LED headlights on those. They upgrade the motor, and we've done pretty much the same thing with this, but we've kept the exterior pretty much as it is, except with a few refinements.
Now, the other thing too, and Yannick, you may have said this already, but I remember we had such a outpouring of support at the Amherst show with this model. And a lot of guys, and myself included, I mean, I had my father's 1950s era Globe F unit, which is what this thing came from. And I can literally buy this locomotive, have this drivetrain, which is a much better, superior drivetrain than what my dad's Globe model is, and put that F unit shell on this chassis, and then even enjoy DCC. That's one of the great things about this frame.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jim. This frame is totally backwards compatible, all the way back to the gold Globe F unit bodies. If you want to slap that on there, you're going to be good to go. The new shells are not compatible with the old frames, but we're pretty sure that's going to be less of an issue. I know a lot of people that are going to want to take their old blue box shells and upgrade them with DCC, and you can do that in one fell swoop now.
Because these were such classics that so many guys did so much work to these. You'd see all the MU receptacles on the nose, or I mean, this was something that everybody worked on for years. And you've got these prize models, but it might be, well, yeah, I made that in 1973. It's like, oh, and it's like, so yeah, I would like to run it now, and that's something I get asked a lot at HO Collector. Whether what can I put this on so I can run it on the club's layout because it was my first locomotive. And again, that's a lot of times that's a real uphill, like, no, there's nothing that easily fits inside the Tyco 430. You can ground it out and try to put Bowser's drive in, which we did in an issue of HO Collector. But it's like, yeah, but this will be a nice, you buy it, snaps on, and yeah, you can have your classic F units back in action if you want. That's very cool.
Guys, if we want to take a little bit here, this is a nice segue before we talk a little bit more about what you brought, Tony. But if you guys in the comment section have some questions, I'm going to go ahead and start putting those up on the screen. And Yannick is ready for your questions. All of us are, really. So let me go back a little bit. Michael has a question. Did you guys slim down the interior weight to make more room? I think we kind of talked about that, didn't we, Yannick, with the addition of the 21 motherboard?
Yeah, a little bit. That old super weight definitely made those things pull better. But if you put it in, there was almost no room left over for any sort of decoder or lights or anything like that. So we have shaved off a bit of weight from that to make room for the 21-pin board. Not too much, though. Just enough that we needed to make it fit. So that's a good compromise, I think, because you still got 90% of the weight of the old one, and now you got DCC ready, 21-pin.
Coming up next, Joel wants to know working sanders. Joel, I've got great news for you. On April 1st of 2023, we will include these with working sanders. Scale sand is not included.
Wow. Wow. Can you imagine the mess of that? Getting up in the gearing all over your track. Although I still think it's a good car option. You could have sanders like washer fluid. Yeah, a couple.
It makes sense.
Follow me on this. I think it's like a high-end feature, but I think sanders on a car is something that you could sell it in, Wisconsin, those kind of places. I mean, I could see driving a big Ford Expedition that had a button that pumped out some sand under my tires. But anyway, there's your $1 million idea.
Mike comes in with, will a diesel dress-up kit with grabs and handrails be available? Good question. I know of one from another manufacturer that still makes one for this. Yannick, do you know of anything that we're working on?
So as of now, there isn't anything that I know about for that. and it's coming back to, and don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it is a roundhouse model. We want it to be durable, want it to be a common prototype, and we want it to be at a friendly price point. So for all those reasons, we don't plan on having any upgrades as far as the details for this. Although, like you said, the parts are out there from several different companies. If you want to do a specific prototype, I'm sure that people can find what they need for that. We're giving you just the sort of the blank canvas for it.
Let's see, we've got a question by Todd. He says, will the chassis be available? I'm thinking he's wanting to know if the chassis separately without the body will be available.
Yeah. So when it came time to work on this upgrade, we didn't plan on it. Well, we kind of found out one day, hey, we're going to have to upgrade this thing. We don't have a choice because the tooling is reaching the end of its useful life. So we worked it into our existing plans. Now that we're seeing such an outpouring of support for this, which, I mean, I speak for Jim, I think, too, when I say that we didn't really think this was going to be exploding with popularity like it has been. I mean, we thought it would be well received, sure. But it's a roundhouse unit, it's modest. It's modest, but it's good modest. And I think based on what I'm seeing here in the comments and what I'm hearing from the show comments, I think we should have the chassis available separately. And I'll definitely be talking to the guys about doing that for the next run.
And I've been asked on shells. I've got at least a couple emails of, do you think they'll offer these shells? Because again, they're such a good starting point. And that, yeah, both those, buying the chassis and the undecorated shells like this would be awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Sid wants to know, will these units be the ones that are arriving this year? I believe they are, aren't they, Yannick?
Yep, that is correct. Everything that we have announced for this in the last year or two is going to be this version.
So there's already in the pipeline stuff that we would have expected to be Athearn Roundhouse will be these now. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Yes. Wow. I wondered what was the first road names and when. That was another question of when will there be announcements and illustrations on what's coming first, and so they'll actually be things that we already know are coming. Okay.
Yeah, that's getting back to the fact where we didn't really see this one coming. We had to do it on the fly, so that's why we're going to have them coming of this new version, which is frankly going to be a
question you probably were anticipating. You really need to do the generic B unit. The A unit is very cool. Can you please do the B unit?
That would be a cool one. Would we do steam generators or not? I guess maybe both, huh?
Probably, yeah.
That would be the big option on that, I think.
Let's see what other questions we've got. Mike Slater says, and I'm sure a lot of other people are thinking the same thing. Tony, you've probably seen this. Also, undecorated complete locomotives could be popular. What do you think, Yannick?
I could use a few of them. Yeah, this would be a great project. Great for somebody to work on maybe when they're just starting out. It's a lot easier to decal something like this than, say, a ribside boxcar or even a tank car sometimes on a curved surface. You want to have a big flat surface to work on. So this would be perfect for doing your own custom road name or doing your own real road names for that matter.
Yeah. And Mike Slater had emailed me on, and I think we already said there will be a dual headlight, right? That was his question to me was, so there is going to be a dual headlight, which, historically, that's when you kind of forget about when we look at some of the vintage ads and stuff I have. The old Globe was originally single, and then a dual was added later that kind of became standard for many years.
Let's see. Any other? A lot of guys in the comments are saying, yeah, we really need an undecorated version. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of love for that. Any other questions, guys, on the Roundhouse F units? A lot of good comments. Tony, I know you had brought some things to share. If you want to go ahead and bring those up, I'll put those on the screen for you, and I'm going to keep monitoring these comments as they come in.
There,
all right.
And here's just some, some classic, as Yannick said, this is like always been in the line, which is really, I mean, for HO, Athearn starts out with O kits before around World War II. There's so much Athearn history, but when you talk injection molded plastic, this F unit is often the landmark piece that gets pointed to as like, that's, the first really popular big diesel release. And it's interesting, you think about it now, because an F unit is such a classic. It's nothing that I have a lot of people say, well, I never saw an F unit operate, which will hit me as like, wow. But yeah, by about 1980, they were pretty much gone. So there's a lot of people that outside of museums or, some of the preserved things never saw F units in regular service. But when this came out, this is a December 1954 railroad model craftsman ad. And if you'll notice at the bottom there, it says Globe Models, an Athearn quality product. So they had just taken over them. It's interesting too, as you look at this model, someone has added the handrails to the sides, and it's got an extra headlight drilled into it and put into the ad. I guess at the time when Athearn was doing Train Tuesday in the 50s, nobody called him out on this. I'll have to look.
I'll have to look in the archives for that one.
I mean, yeah, and it's a nicely done job on that. But yeah, I'll have to look and see if anybody gave anybody trouble. And this is, that first, as we talked, if you bought it back in the day, I always thought it was interesting, don't you, Yannick? Look at that you actually had to build the horns. The horns were three little, because it seems like molding that horn piece is so simple. So that always surprised me wow, you had to build the horns? And then that underframe at this point, remember the Globes initially there was no power for them. They sold for 98 cents. And the trucks are plastic. That frame is plastic. Those bulkhead walls are two plastic pieces that sit in there. So a much different thing. If you've never picked one up before, they're really something to look at and pick up. And they came semi-painted. I think this one is kind of finished. You got it. The horns and the number boards were black molded. I don't think were color matched. And I can't remember if it came with decals or if that's tape someone added to that one, but they came maybe with a small decal sheet. When you think about this F unit and the service it did between Globe and then Athearn, and it also served Penline, bought these and sold Athearn F units for years. OK Streamliners did. By the 70s, you had Cox had it in their line for a while. It is the F unit. And then others, there's so many F units that were done that you can see telltale signs of, they must have used, the Athearn model as the guide for it. This is a catalog from about 1960. And this one, whenever I've run this in things, I always get asked, is that Irv Athearn? And no, that is not Irv Athearn as the model on the cover of the catalog. Here is after the rubber band drive. This is a Craftsman ad from October of 61. And I think this is the early gear drive. And it just had these two die cast weights. And then there's the one that Yannick was talking about, the Super Brute. And this is still that early gear. It's not until 73 that the flywheels come in. And then these die cast side frames, the beautiful Blombergs, as the ads promoted them in the early 80s, changed it so much. And these, as Yannick was talking about how it picked up power, it was always fun to run some of these old Athearns with the metal side frames. You turn off the lights and they'd spark, you'd see the little sparks along the track on these old metal drives. So it's amazing how much some of this stuff has changed when you think it hasn't. And looking at this, here is, I talked about, the door, and you can see the door was just a suggestion. And it looks like you straighten this up too. This one air filter or air inlet, I think is what it is, was always a little cockeyed on the model. And I think it's better. And as we talked, it's so hard to get that to pull out of a mold, I think. So you do a lot of, if you start looking at old vintage F units, you'll see how much they cheat to try to get that number board. But I really felt like this new one, you know, does such an amazing job to that. And again, we talked about, I love this, Yannick, whoever was working on, I think that headlight, the clear piece in there is really awesome. But
it's a lot more like a real headlight.
Yeah.
And the old one was more of a suggestion of it. Yeah.
And the one question I noticed, and if you start looking at different things, you can see here, and I highlight it, and maybe you can talk. I know these are called slides. When we talk about making a double headlight or other things, it's not always necessarily that, like, okay, here's one mold that makes this F unit, and then you'd redo the whole other thing to make another. Some of this is components, isn't it, Janet? Can you speak to that? Like, I assume ahead of that yellow striping, like to do a dual headlight, you've just got a different piece that you lock the roof sides back and then mold it. Isn't that kind of how that works? They're called slides.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Tony. Since everything else on it is the same, it would be a waste to make two complete sets of tooling just to have one of them with a different headlight. And, you know, that's a basic example when you get into the Genesis, where you've got tens of different bodies and you've got dozens of different noses to deal with. Some of them differing only in like class lights or headlights or grab irons. It makes sense to do them up as different slides. And that way you just have a whole lot less work with your tool. You just exchange the slides instead of an entire set of tooling.
Boy, it really looks good. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've airbrushed anything, but I'm already thinking that, boy, I would like to decal and do. Again, it's such a great, as Jim said, a canvas for, working on these things. That it's a wonderful. An F unit is such a classic that it's a fun model. Awesome stuff. But again, yeah, when you go back, I mean, now that we've looked at the new one, look at what those Blombergs look like, and the old metal tank underneath, and
it looks like they were mixing the wheel bearings,
and they did. Yeah. They had the slope and box. Yeah, some of those did at the time, and these also came in plastic as well. They shot in plastic for dummies, because I can remember when those better Blombergs came out. I think I was doing I had taken the Athearn F unit nose because I liked it better, and we put the Cox F3 back here and capped the light so I could do an Illinois Central Gulf, but I wanted the slope and box. At the time I didn't know what they were, but knew that the GM&O F units had those old trucks. And so I remember kind of Frankensteining that all together out of a couple of different things to make it work. But yeah, it's part of the fun of the hobby and doing that kind of stuff. It really was.
I just noticed too that on the Globe it's got plastic side frames. So they went from plastic to metal, and now we're back to plastic. It's kind of interesting how that happened.
Sid wants to know, will the portholes have plastic glass on the sides?
Yes, they will.
They will.
Yes, they will.
Very
All of
cool.
the windows have flush glass.
I think even the back does here. Let me look at
the
that.
Back window.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that was always these older F units. Again, that was a lot of times you didn't even get the cab glass. You were lucky if you got something to put into its headlight. But yeah, there's the side windows, and as you can see, there's a little piece of glass, clear plastic back there too. So yeah, sweet.
Let's see what else we've got. Joel's already got some ideas. He's seeing ICG. There you go. He's already got some projects lined up. Let's see. I got a question here from Chad. Will Athearn delve into, I believe he's saying Alcos in the future? Boy, the guy to answer that would be Yannick. Do you know of anything Alco related in the lineup this year?
I don't know of anything that is currently in the pipeline, but definitely let us know, because Alcos, I mean, that's a whole can of worms. There's dozens of different models that we could foreseeably work on there. So let us know what you're looking for. There's some nice Alco models out there already, but I bet there's some that are just waiting to be discovered or waiting to be produced as well. Like, I don't know, a T6 maybe?
Ooh, the N&W, yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget, Yannick, the Elko RS3s that we announced last, I think it was spring. Those have been worked on too. I forgot that John had brought a shell of that to Amherst. And that's the first time too. Correct me if I'm wrong, Yannick, but that's the first time we've offered them with sound.
First time with sound. They're going to have LEDs, the 4-wire pickups on the trucks, which they might have already had. I'm not sure about that, but they're going to be as nice as they've ever been, if not better, especially with that Alco sound. I mean, there's nothing that compares to that, right, Tony?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, anytime I'm reviewing an old Alco model, it'll sit a lot of times here just like I'll turn the F8 off as I'm writing because I'll get tired of the sound on something just idling. But yeah, I can review an entire Alco model and just let it sit and idle and listen to it run. Yeah. Music.
Reading Area Railfan says, are the ready to roll RS3s out yet? Well, they're not ready to roll. They're actually, let's see, those are Athearn now. And are they out yet? No, we're probably going to see those. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're looking at about May or June. We're going to see those in stock.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find something on the website real quick.
Jackie says,
I don't have these
units
delivery
would be
dates
nice.
memorized.
Oh, here we go. Here come the requests.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Zach Malcolm says, hey, Jim, can you do the only 2 Metra F7s, the 308 and 305? The 308 is still around today. It's at the Illinois Railway Museum in Chicagoland. Well, that would be kind of cool. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I will tell you, Zach, the same thing I tell all of my friends who join us on these live feeds. Go over to athearn.com, go to the Contact Us, and hit that product suggestion email. And who knows, we might actually do that someday.
Well, and the nice thing too on this, the Roundhouse level F7 is some of these, like those Metros for sure, would have been worked over. You know, we're talking that had to have been, I think, Metros like 1970s as it comes in to Chicago commuter. So these become challenging things for you guys to do on the Genesis line because of all the details and is there enough interest there? But to just paint one of these F7s opens the door for some of those things that like, well, yeah, we're not ever probably going to do this one or that one because there's so many odd things about that prototype. You know, I think of like the Royal Gorge F units that run in the Royal Gorge excursion train that it's like, yeah, that would be a tough one to do because like they're Canadian or Northwestern F units that have been really worked over. But this opens the door for some of that close, you know, just to have an F unit painted in a road like that.
Tony will appreciate
that's a
this
good
one.
point, dude.
David Green says, need that Hustler out soon.
You know, that's I'm still waiting. You know, when they pull my Powerball numbers, I'm going to call up Jim and say, okay, call Yannick and John, get everyone together. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spend the money. I want a Genesis level Athearn Hustler. So you're going to have to wait until you hear that this crazy guy in Missouri or Texas has won the Powerball. And it's like, oh, maybe that was him. And they're going to make that. Yeah.
Eugene wants to know, will the F-Series and the Roundhouse have cab interior? No, they will not have a cab interior. If you want a cab interior, you're going to have to get bumped up to the Genesis, Athearn Genesis, or get really creative. There's a little bit of room in there, but it would still take a little bit of hardcore modeling to put an interior in there. And Yannick, you know, as you know, last year we did a quite extensive rebranding. Let everybody know once again what our philosophy is with Roundhouse. What is its target audience?
Yeah, so the Roundhouse is the line where it's a starting point in the hobby. It's supposed to be a price conscious line. Not, you know, and that's not to say that it's toys or it's stuff that just gets thrown in a bin after a couple of hours. You know, it is still Athearn quality. The paint schemes and the mechanisms are Athearn quality. But we do stay away from separate parts usually. we do common prototypes, you know, and it's all planned out sort of strategically as to offer the best price to model ratio that we can. Whereas with the Genesis, we go all out on it. So the Roundhouse is a starting place, and it's like we said a couple times here, it's a starting place not only for starting out in the hobby, but also a starting point for a super detailing project. Maybe you want a Metra F unit. Well, you know, this Roundhouse F unit would be a great start for that, because you're going to have to add a lot of stuff to it. You might as well start with something that's a blank canvas.
Mr. Joel Ashcroft has got a new nickname for you, Yannick. Yannick Socrates Bringle. I like that. He also wants to know why your layout is further ahead than mine. I'm going to say you probably had an easier jump on mine. I think you started earlier.
Well, Jim, I'm going to come clean. Actually, my friend built that for me, so I can't take any credit for it. It's just a little photo Fremo module, but it is a nice one. So.
That is indeed. If you've probably seen some of the pictures that we've posted on social media, many times those pictures are from Yannick's module. So Yannick is very active in Fremo and active with, what's the name of your club out there again, Yannick?
Yeah, a little bit confusingly. It's the Fresno Model Railroad Club. It's not actually in Fresno. It's in Selma, which is the next town over. But it's a nice little club. It's inside of an SP depot, which is always a great place to have a club. And they've got HO scale, they've got G scale, O scale, and N scale. So good stuff.
Ken's Back Shop says, when can we buy the F units? Well, they're going to be available here pretty soon because we announced them a little over a year ago for pre-order. And so we should be seeing those, I would say, probably about the midsummer. You should start seeing those. Now, if you pre-ordered one of those, you don't have to worry. You're going to get a phone call and you're going to get one. If you did not pre-order one, now's the time to go to your Athearn dealer, whether it be online or you're lucky enough to have a local hobby shop, and say, hey, I want these Athearn F units. Now, you can find these on athearn.com, and you can go through our new announcements PDF files, kind of scroll down through there until you find those and find the roads that you like. And like I said, you can go ahead and order those. Tony, you're getting a lot of love for the Hustler from John. He says, I still have my Hustler. It has the Northwest Short Line drive in it. Let's see what other questions we have.
So would a Genesis Hustler still have the rubber bands? I mean, you got to be able to match the speed.
Well, I mean, we're obviously going to have to source some real high-end rubber bands for them to be Genesis ones. But right. I mean, this is great. I like the excitement, but wait till I get that big lottery check, and then we can really get going on this. Yeah.
Tom is hitting me where it hurts. He says, hey, how are the Genesis Rock Island Blue and the CNW Green CRP Jeeps coming along? It's okay to announce them here. Man, I don't have any news for you. I don't know if Yannick's got any news for you, but I think we would both agree that's a good suggestion. Hopefully you put that in our product suggestion email.
And definitely the product suggestion email. I know that I hear this in these shows all the time, and I know a lot of people, oh, do they really? They do. Because I can tell you just in the last 24, 48 hours, I had an email from some of the production guys saying, hey, we get a lot of requests for this and we're going to do this model. We're looking for this number series from this railroad. And I won't tell you what that was. But yes, they really do listen, and this stuff happens.
Eric says, oops, there he goes. Jim, has the shipping container situation picked up yet? Or are they still running behind? Good question, Eric. It's not that simple to say yes or no. It sometimes changes with the container. Now, we do monitor those containers as soon as they leave the factory pretty closely. Our website will give an ETA. Just keep in mind that's for an estimated time arrival, not a actual time of arrival. But we are still seeing some implications from different various sources that are slowing down shipping. So please bear with us as we try to get those models to you. We've had a little bit of a backlog, and we just barely got our CA8 and CA9 cabooses out. So there's more coming. Definitely more coming.
It does seem like product, I mean, not just from Athearn, but everywhere, product seems to have been is a little better in the last maybe 6 to 9 months. Don't you think, Yannick? Have you kind of noticed that too? That, I mean, it seems like more and more stuff hitting and coming out.
Yeah, but we're still dealing with the backlog, the supply chain issues, and I know everyone likes to use that as an excuse, but the fact is that it has affected a lot of aspects and a lot of things that we don't really have control over, because we don't produce everything all in one place. We get stuff that comes in from different places, and it can get held up at any point in that time frame.
I mean, that's as you say, that's been everywhere lately. You know, I've heard that from everybody, whether it's car repair or still, hey, I went to the grocery store again, you know, they still don't have this or that. So, I mean, again, why would it not affect model trains as well? So.
Absolutely. Now, before we end the evening, there was something else we wanted to talk about. And that is some more tooling that we've done. And this is for something that's available for pre-order now. So what I'm about to show you, you have until Friday, February 24th to make your pre-orders on these. The first thing I'm going to show is the 50-foot FMC 5347 boxcars. Now, these have been recently retooled. And in the past, these were based on the old MDC molds. These have been updated so that they are now prototypically accurate for their dimensions. And also, the doors are now based on the prototype in which the railroad they worked. So let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen here. And here we are. And our really great run. A lot of guys from my neck of the woods, Yannick, are pretty happy with this release.
Yeah, it seems like we're always getting Athearn only likes West Coast stuff. We always get those comments. Well, I mean, right here is proof to the contrary, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is true. If you look at the employees, coworkers here at Athearn, we've got guys from the West Coast, we've got guys from the Midwest, we've got guys from the East Coast, and we basically have brainstorming sessions based mainly on your Athearn product suggestion emails that we receive from you. But we also sit down and say, hey, you know what we have not done in a while? We need to do this again. And again, a lot of what you're seeing here is based on the input from you. And we appreciate those inputs. I can tell you that those Pan Am boxcars, we had a lot of product suggestions on that car alone. So I know there's probably some guys out there that probably appreciate that, like Dave. Dave seems to appreciate that. So
I don't know what it is about those cars, but you can't find them anywhere, and if you do, good luck getting them for a decent price.
Yes, yeah, very popular. Yeah.
So once again, these are now the accurate dimensions. They were a little bit too wide in their previous life. They're now accurate. And those doors are going to be specific to the road. That was something else we haven't done. Now, if you got a chance to see these at the Amherst show, John had a sample, an undecorated sample. And really, for an Athearn line model, this has got a lot of great details. I mean, all of your grab irons are separately applied. You even get some brake detail, which you don't normally have in a mid-level quality car. Yannick, I know with you being in Fremo, these are probably going to be extremely popular with you and the Fremo guys.
Yeah, these are a good option for filling out a train. They're detailed enough that they look great next to the higher end cars, but they're also durable enough that they won't just fall apart if you look at them funny, or maybe you have a minor side swipe, accident. Not that would ever happen running on a layout, but if you did want to zoom in on that CSX too, Jim, that one's got the different type of door.
Yeah, let me
We do
zoom
have
in on
optional
that.
doors on these cars now, which is something they've never had before.
There we go.
So you see there with the tack board being moved off the door versus the other ones, and you've got that panel at the top as well.
At the top there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget because I tend to think of the classic model die casting and Roundhouse as a lot of older prototypes, but they really got on a kick about 1980, late 70s, and started doing the gondolas and these box cars. And at first some of them weren't all that prototype, and then they got better at it. But there's a whole group that, like, when I first saw this and it said new this, new that, as I mentioned before we went on tonight, all I could think of was that Pullman Standard 5347 that came out from Athearn. Like, well, are they redoing that car? And it's like, I don't think that's that car. It's not an FMC. And yeah, I forget this was a Roundhouse thing. This is an HO collector feature I need to do, is modern freight cars that Roundhouse did like 1980 to when they became part of Horizon, because there's a lot more cars than you think. That combo door box car, all of that. And now this car is also going to be out in N-scale?
That's correct, yeah. Now the N-scale cars, they're going to be sharing the same road names that you see here. So you N-scale guys that are out there, if you want one of those Central Vermont Pan Am CSX cars, you can also get these in N-scale. So, and both the HO and the N-scale ones, you can pre-order those right up until Friday the 24th.
I like that Green Mountain, and I think I've seen that when you sent me this. I know I sent you a Pan Am prototype shot, and I think I found some Green Mountain cars in our collection, but not anything close to that. But that one, again, when some of these get announced, I'm like, man, I got to look into that some more, because that is not on my radar. But again, you're doing these Eastern roads. What is it with all these Eastern roads?
I have nothing to do with it.
Do they run trains east of the Mississippi? Are there trains in the Eastern time zone?
Maybe not quite as big as the West Coast stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what is the world outside of UP, Santa Fe, Rio Grande, Western Pacific? I don't know why you're doing this. This is crazy.
I don't know. I know we've got at least one guest in the audience tonight that would vehemently oppose you, because the Vermont Rail is probably one of New England's finest railroads in the country.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know there was railroads in Vermont. Well, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, that's all 2-foot gauge right now.
I don't. Yeah, we're just going to start a flaming war here. But yeah, sorry again. Yeah, grew up in the St. Louis area, Kansas City, Texas. Yeah, so I'm the wrong person to start, waving the flag for Conrail or whatever. Sorry.
Understandable. Speaking of some of those East Coast roads, I've got one more thing I want to show you guys tonight. Yannick and I are really excited about these. I'm going to go ahead and remove this and share another screen. And I know you saw these, Tony, the GP39-2s. And not only are we coming out with them again, but Yannick had a lot of work to do with these. We've done some updates on these too. A lot of guys have been asking for lighting features, and that, of course, being number boards and classification lights. And so this run of GP39-2s, that's just one of the features that we've added to this particular model. Now, this is from the previous release. This was back in 2021. And if you're not familiar with these guys, this is part of the Athearn Genesis line. And look at the details that the guys have to research. And Yannick's job, he spends hours looking at photographs, talking with historical societies. Each one of these locomotives is, not only is it road name specific, but it is road number specific. So 2866 has a signature plow. That's going to be on here. Details like the windshield wipers, the antenna, just the fact of getting this compressor airline all the way back here to the horn that's been relocated from when it used to be on the cab. All of that type of detail has to go into each one of these locomotives that I'm about to show you. And let's go briefly over these. And Yannick, again, I know you spent a lot of time specifically on the Santa Fe and BNSF models, but for you guys on the East Coast, we are doing 3 road numbers for CSX in the YN3 paint scheme.
Yeah, and I think these originally came from the Reading, from that group of 20 that were renting units for all of 3 years.
Yeah.
Before they went on to the D&H. See, I do know some East Coast stuff.
There you go. See,
but no,
proof positive, guys, that Yannick knows East Coast stuff just as well as West Coast.
No, but these are cool. You see the CSX style angled ditch lights on the rear of that one, which is a pretty unique feature. You got the RV style air conditioners up on the roof. So this would be probably still running around today, or at least recently, that this one would have been looking like this, because these things are going on 40 years old, if not more. And this will be the first time for the YN3 scheme as well.
Now, these, I know you did a lot of work on, Yannick, because these are rebuilds. These are GP39-2Us. Tell us a little bit about the Santa Fe 39-2Us.
Yeah, the 39-2 was really a Santa Fe locomotive. They were the ones who convinced EMD to produce it. They wanted something, because it was their version of the GP38-2, even though they had those from the TP&W. But these were better for Santa Fe. They were better at high altitudes. They were better in the mountains because of the turbocharger. So Santa Fe had a ton of different orders on these, and so they had a lot of different phases. What this was, as I understand it, was an early phase that they went ahead and rebuilt. And the main spotting feature for me is the fuel tank gets pushed almost all the way back. That's for weight distribution, as I understand it, because of the prime mover being shorter than a 16. It's a 12-cylinder. And then they extended the fuel filler so that it would remain in the same spot there. I think the radiator grills, too, also changed on these rebuilds. It's called a GP39-2U. So for Santa Fe guys, they know what that means. They know what those are. They know to be excited about it because this is the first time in plastic.
And not only that, Yannick, but there was an equipment box door that was added to these, kind of a Santa Fe thing behind the cab. And that's all new tooling for these models, correct?
Yeah, that'll be a new part for these. Judging by the way this thing is presented, I'd say this is a late 1980s, mid to late 1980s with the beacon. They haven't moved the headlight down to the nose yet, so this will be perfect for running around with maybe some Kodachromes. That's going to look good.
Absolutely. And of course, we all know what happened after Santa Fe. I'm really excited about these. This is what I remember first coming to Illinois, what it looked like. You've got the early era BNSF circle cross paint schemes. And so a lot of those Santa Fe 39-2Us, of course, they came on board. And again, Yannick, this is one of those models that really drives you and your staff crazy because no two of these BNSF locomotives are alike as far as painting and markings.
Yeah, well, on the details, you see they moved the headlight on this one. Not all of them had the headlights moved at the same time. Some of them, didn't get them moved at all. And I'll say, too, on a personal note, it's a shame that these didn't last longer in this paint scheme. I thought this was a really sharp paint scheme.
Agreed.
Really reminding me of the Great Northern.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, the Heritage one. And yeah, this is a new tooling, which I didn't realize when the announcement hit and I started digging pictures up in White River's collection, and I had goofed as I scanned and did some of these. I had them in our collection as Jeep 38-2s. And I kept thinking, wait. And then as I looked at them and I saw the doors and that it was, but yeah, these Jeep 39-2Us, look these up on the internet or look for more pictures of these and you'll see this is basically a new sub variant for this Genesis series model and for both the Santa Fe and these BNSF. So it will be a very neat new addition.
Yeah, definitely.
And all of them are different. I think you just showed what the one, the nose light, and then this one doesn't. Yeah. This I was complaining to my dad the other day.
Yeah, going back, this one.
Yeah,
has the nose light.
I said, collecting's no fun anymore because I can't just buy one and be done with it. That even of the same road names, they'll do so many different things. So yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. And there, let's see, I thought I had a picture, I think, of that one. I think you guys must have asked me at some point on these. And again, as I say, I was embarrassed because they came through at there is the real 2773 Jim, I think, from pictures that are the one with the nose light I have shared down there. If you can flip over to it, and you can see how all these are different.
I get the confusion on that too. It looks like a 38-2 unless you look at the exhaust stack. I think the fan spacing is exactly the same as an early 38-2.
Yeah, definitely something that our customers have asked for. And yeah, you're so right, Tony. Now, remember, Yannick, you were talking about the Reading locomotives. Some of those actually did get into D&H paint. However, they did not get painted in that beautiful D&H Avalon blue paint scheme that most people are familiar with. In the 1970s, the D&H experimented with simplified paint schemes to cut costs and maintenance. And we're pleased to present 3 different versions of that. Yannick, you guys must have had a lot of fun hunting down these paint schemes.
Yeah, something about this group of Reading units, they had so many different paint schemes. I was keeping track of one of them. I think I had 9 different paint schemes that I could verify for one locomotive number. Now, this D&H scheme, I don't know if it has an official name or not, but this is kind of a love it or hate it one with the solid blue. I don't hate it with the silver trucks. I like anything with silver trucks.
I was gonna say, it makes it pop. Yeah, and the yellow plow helps. Yeah,
because we've done this version before, which is the yellow nose. We've also done the stripes on the nose. They had a few different versions. So there's your 3 different versions right there. No 2 alike.
Yeah. And again, this is where, because we're advertising these as Athearn Genesis, Yannick and his crew spend hours looking at pictures, looking at online pictures, all of that type of stuff. It's mainly the biggest part of their job is the research to make sure that your Genesis model matches what actually happened in the real world. The other thing too is you'll notice on Athearn Genesis releases, you'll see dates. Like this paint scheme here actually lasted until 1985. So you guys that are modeling Guilford, you could probably justify putting this into your fleet. Those guys, when they research these paint schemes, they put those dates down there as a guide for you to know exactly when that paint scheme actually existed. Because as we all know, paint schemes would change as time went on.
Well, the worst part is when we have a photo of the unit in 1985 and the next one is in 1992. We have no idea what happened in between those 2 dates. For all we know, it could have been painted bright orange. We would never know. So sometimes having that one photo that shows that one thing is just going to tell you everything you want to know. Other times you can't find it, and you have to use your intuition or use your best judgment on it.
And then we've got one last road to show you guys here tonight. And Yannick, I think both you and John are probably pretty knowledgeable on this road. Wow. I mean, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, you can't. It's hard not to like the D&W orange. I mean, you can go anywhere on this continent or other continents. And you'll see this color scheme. These came from the first group of Santa Fe units. So these are early phase units. They went up to the Portland and Western. And again, no 2 of these alike because not all of them got repainted. Some of them are still running around in the old Santa Fe scheme. And I think we've got those versions on offer as well, Jim.
Yeah, I think we do. Let's take a look here.
I hadn't caught Janet till you just mentioned it. The fuel tank sliding back on those Santa Fe rebuilds. And now it's like, wow, it's blazingly obvious. But wow, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things we did.
Yeah, definitely a cool. This is what you were talking about earlier. Former Santa Fe units been pressed into service, and these prime for grime ones, they always sell well for us.
Yeah, and that one right there, I mean, at a first glance, it's kind of doesn't look too good, but that's not too bad for a Santa Fe patch. I've seen a lot worse than that.
And then last but not least, kind of a special paint scheme for this selected locomotive here.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice little shout out they have on the side there, 25 years in Oregon. I think it's more than that now too, that they've been around. They were one of the early G&W short lines, one of the not the original, but one of the early ones.
And these have ditch lights front and back where appropriate and working on both?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, they do. P&W has been P&WR, not P&W.
One
one
thing
of our
to
number one
note too
roads
is some of these, look at our website and you'll see that some of the locomotives like the CSX in the DCC versions, they do have alternating flashing ditch lights when the horn is depressed. A lot of guys ask us about that. Now remember, these are Athearn Genesis, so if the full-scale locomotive had alternating ditch lights when the horn was selected, then the model will as well. We try to keep everything, including the lighting features, prototypically accurate. So we did put that on this packet, and that seems to help you guys know which ones have the alternating flashing ditch lights.
And this run, the number boards and class light, this doesn't have its class lights because it's late, it's capped, but
Right.
those are illuminated now too, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And that's a new feature
That's a new feature. First time ever for these 39s.
Wow.
And actually all the Jeep Series 38s to 50s are going to get that upgrade. But this is the first time for these.
And I can't remember, are these getting the what's the one light on the one side of the cab like you have on the SDP 40F, the track light, or it's like it's only on the engineer's side or something?
Oh, the truck lights?
Yeah.
Truck lights? These will not have truck lights.
Not coming to that. Okay.
So yeah, with the classification lights, you're going to want to take a look at your era locomotive, because obviously nowadays classification lights are not a thing. However, some of the older versions that we're offering in this run, like the D&H, if you get the DCC with Tsunami 2, those will have operating classification lights. But if they're modern, like what Yannick's pointed out here, those have long since been plated over and will not work.
Yeah, you'll notice too, there's no number boards on the back of this. Santa Fe didn't have back number boards on pretty much anything. So only the fronts are going to light up on this because the back is just a painted on number. Mm-hmm. But so it's always, where applicable, but it is an upgrade for all the run.
And will they have working sanders?
Only on April 1st.
Oh,
it's weird. It only happens on April 1st.
I'll have my credit card ready. Yes.
And now Yannick has been working on that all year round. And but like I said, they are sold. Scale sand is sold separately.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you have it. There's GP39-2s with new upgrades, new tooling, new lighting features. The 5347 FMC box cars and HO scale, all new tooling, accurate dimensions, new doors, and then, of course, what we talked a lot about tonight with those Roundhouse F units. Now, those Roundhouse F units, we already announced those. They will be for sale starting this summer, so look for those at your Athearn dealer. We've got a few minutes left in the program, and now's your chance, everybody out there in the comments section. If you've got a question for Tony, if you've got a question for Yannick, if you've got a question for myself or all three of us, now's your chance to ask. I'll be looking in the comments, and we'll answer a few questions before letting you all get back to working on your own layouts.
What's the next show you're doing, Jim? I know we just came out of Amherst. Are there any train shows lined up for Athearn soon?
Yeah, the next show where they're going to be going to is the Denver, the Rocky Mountain Train Show in Denver, and that comes right up the very beginning of April. So let's hope that it's warm, but it's Colorado, so I don't know. April 1st.
Yeah, it could either be 60 and sunny or blowing snow. Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, one or the other, no in between.
Joseph has a good question. Jim, how do you guys decide if a model should be a Genesis, ready to roll, or now Athearn, or a Roundhouse? Yannick, you've got a great explanation on how that works since you deal with this all the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. we as Athearn, we didn't start out as a new company. Well, we did, but that was a long time ago. We had our 75th anniversary fairly recently. So Athearn's been around for 75 plus years. We have a large repertoire of existing tooling. So when it comes time to produce new models, we're going to look at what do we already have, what's in our line, and does it need to be upgraded? Is it up to the standards of today? We're going to look at what does everyone else have out there. Does someone else already make a high-end model of it? Can you get this or can you not? So usually the kind of stuff like I'll say the SD90 Mac and friends, so 80 Mac, 70 ACU and all that, we took a look at that project before we cut the tooling. We said, hey, what else is out there? Is it high end? Do we have one already, which we didn't? Yeah, let's make it Genesis. This is going to be the one to get. Whereas, with this Roundhouse F unit that we just looked at, we said, well, we already got the Genesis one. It's, it's a really nice model. We don't need another Genesis F unit because we already have one. So let's keep it simple with this one. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it. We look at the market, look at ourselves, and try and make the best decision for what we think people are going to want. We get it right most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. One silly question, then we'll go to a real question. Somebody was asking, I think it was Joel was asking, how come Yannick has the best head of hair? Is model railroading stressful? No, it's because Yannick is out there in the sunny California IA enjoying that surf breeze. And yeah, I mean, Yannick doesn't stress. He just gets it done. Going on to the real question.
My wife might, no. She says I'm too stressed. But.
Ken's Backshop with another question. He says, has Athearn ever thought about bringing back the 2466 FM Trainmaster? That would be awesome, even in a Roundhouse line.
I have asked that question, Ken. I am not an Athearn person, but I will give you the answer that was given to me years ago, because yes, it would be. It came out in 1979 or 80. And it's right on the line of when things went to the scale with hoods. And it actually is the first, if you can count it, but because of the opposed piston of the FM, it was a fat-bodied locomotive anyway. So, but anyhow, I was told, and this has been years back, so Yannick, there was the SP nose and then a standard nose. So there was two versions of the plastic tooling. I was told the biggest thing is the trucks. That the trucks were always die-cast metal. They never made it to plastic, and that the cost challenge of making that, and again, it would need to be a roundhouse. But I agree. Yeah, I think it would be a model you guys could do a lot with, and it was nice tooling.
I'd love to see that one again. Yeah, that would be a nice one. And remember too, if anyone asks you, what was the first Athearn locomotive with the scale with hood? Well, that would be the F unit,
the
right?
F unit, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Good call. Speaking of F units, Jack 9989 says, will you guys do Genesis F7s with light up number boards? The answer to that, and this was in the conversation I had with John Stackpole one day, eventually yes. Obviously not the run that we just announced, but eventually it is the goal of the product development team to go through all of our current lineup and give them the lighting upgrades that you guys have been demanding. So that is something to look forward to in the future. Yannick, I've got a question here for you. This is from JGood30. He says, at Yannick, any news for the Amtrak Superliners and Genesis? Is the interest there? Potential project?
I think the interest is definitely there. After the response we got on the Surfliners, I think we got a great response on those, and I am still patiently waiting for mine, as I know most of the rest of people who ordered them are. They are coming. We want to make sure that they are perfect before they arrive. But the Surfliners were based on the Superliners dimensionally, so we really do have the bones for it. I think it would make a lot of sense. And I'll just say this: whatever's out there right now for Superliners, none of them is perfect. you got to do something to whatever you end up getting to make it what you want. So I think there's some room for us there. So we'll definitely consider that.
I'm amazed at the Surfliner. More emails on that, and as you say, yeah, the excitement for those. That I completely missed that one. That when it was announced, I'm like, okay, yeah, but and people want them in N scale, and when are they going to come out? And yeah, that Surfliner project really surprised me at the feedback and response that came in on it.
All right. Well, we've got time for one more question. I'm going to go through these comments real quickly and see if we can put that question up there. And then I'm going to let all of you guys get back to your model railroading. And you know what? Here's the question of the hour. I've seen it on social media, so I'm going to throw it up there. It is from Justin. He is saying, will there be a Genesis CSX flared radiator SD70 Mac in the near future? Yannick, do you have any insight on that?
Well, I don't know what he would consider the near future to be. But I don't know if you guys saw those new Metro units that they just out-chopped. Those are sharp.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a flared, if it wasn't originally, it is now a flared 70 Mac. So, we're getting more paint schemes for those. It would only make sense to consider it. That old 70 Mac project is kind of needs a going over from top to bottom. So maybe we would just do the whole thing all at once. I'll talk to John about it.
That's neat. Yeah, those new blue Metro units, I think I have 2 of those in diesel era of them being delivered. And were those 70 Max? Isn't that terrible? I'm the guy that puts that new stuff.
I don't know what they're called. Yeah, they might have a railroad designation that's different than that. But
my buddy Randy Keller keeps me honest on all this. He's calling it an SD70 MACH and has all the particulars on. We always put, where they came, what they were, but yeah, I thought those were really, really neat looking. Let's see if I've got a better picture that I can share of that. Yeah, here's, I think, what we were talking about.
Oh yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's I'm missing. Lawrence Smoke sent me that picture, and he's a CN, I believe, engineer, and that's one of his shots that he sent me. He caught it being delivered. That's somewhere in the south, and that's in the new Diesel Era's Rail News section. But yeah, that'd be an awesome piece. There's so many neat models. I mean, that's a thing.
That's basically the new F40C then, huh? Because it's a 6-axle. That's a passenger unit.
Well, there you have it, guys. A big night talking about the new, newly retooled F7, the FMC boxcars, and of course the GP39-2s. Tony, any last thoughts before we sign off?
I'm amazingly excited on the Roundhouse F unit as I was, and now to know that they're on the way, because I was waiting for announcement news. But you're saying they're going to be the ones that are coming. So, okay, yeah, I need to go make sure I've got some of these on order. So, wow, awesome. If you want to look up the stuff that I do, shop.whiteriverproductions.com is the portal for all of White River's magazines. And awesome to be here tonight. And I hope I get to come back for the coil car. We hope we can do something on that Versa coil in the next couple of weeks when John's doing better, because I had a lot of questions on it, and I got a handful of pictures of what is this and how does it compare to the model and all that stuff. So I know there's a lot of guys excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. We will we'll be talking about that in a future episode. So for you out there watching this on the live or you're watching on YouTube, keep check of your social media feeds. We will announce that when we get a chance to have John back on the show to talk about Versa coils as well as some other projects he's working on. Always a good time. Yannick, any last thoughts from you?
No, I was really happy to see all the comments, all the support, especially for the Roundhouse F unit. Maybe we'll do some more projects like that in the future. And, maybe not everything has to be the most detailed ever. There's still a market out there for the good old simple but good bones type of model like that. So maybe, who knows? We'll keep that in mind. But thanks to everyone who came out and gave us a watch and gave us a listen.
Yeah. Once again, want to thank you all for joining us. It's been a great evening. Thanks for sharing your evening with us. Don't forget, if you see us on the YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. We drop a Train Tuesday every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central Time, and we are trying to put more videos like this out this year. But until next time, I hope everybody out there is happy and healthy and safe. Do some good modeling, and above all, high greens, everyone. Good night.